Be painless.
Good.
Oh.
Who else is in the room?
Hi Tina, it's Mike.
Hi, Mike.
And you also have Councilors Ronald Cormier and Alec Durden-Wellitz and
Hi, Dana.
Madam Clerk.
Hi.
Hi.
We just observed.
It being time, I now call the Appointments Committee meeting of the Gardner City Council to order for its Tuesday, January 17th, 2023 meeting. I'd like the record to reflect that Chair Tyros, Councilor Walsh, and Mayor Nicholson are present. Is anyone recording today's meeting? There's a posting on the wall. Item 1, appointments. Number 10876, a measure confirming the mayor's appointment of Tina Griffin to the position of Special Act Charter Drafting Committee for a term expiring upon submission to the City Council. Mr. Mayor.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Mrs. Griffin has been a long-standing resident of the City of Gardner. She currently works as a Chief Operating Officer and Chief Nurse for Haywood Healthcare at their Athol campus. One of the reasons why Mrs. Griffin stood out for me is that when you look at the membership of the remaining 4 people who the committee's already seen, who have been appointed by both myself and the council president to the charter committee, you have a former mayor, a former town administrator, former city employees, a former state representative, 2 attorneys, and Mrs. Griffin would also be the only person on the committee who has never had her name on a ballot in the City of Gardner. And the reason why I think that's a good perspective is everyone else is very familiar with the document and how it works because they have operated under the purviews of the city charter. And I think having a long-standing city resident who has lived here and been active in the community in several ways, but not directly involved through employment, election, or appointment by the city, brings a different, unique perspective that the general public might have, in that someone who's worked in the private sector or it has a just different view of things might bring a different perspective to the table. So while I think the important foundation of having a familiarity with the governing document of the city and how that works and how it directly affects the operations of government is the most important thing to have, and why that has such a solid foundation in those members who have been put forward, it is also good to get that open window there too that you can have, just so you get a different perspective on what's working, what's not, and what could be updated. And whereas Mrs. Griffin's worked as a chief operating officer in different places, reviewed how operations work, had different evaluation measures, because of that, it just might bring a valued perspective to that process in just seeing how things work and if anything does need to be changed. And I think that that perspective of a member of the general public outside of a governmental sphere just is an important aspect to bring, so you get a more round, fully in-depth look through the actions of the committee. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mrs. Griffin, we usually give the appointee a moment to make a brief statement if they choose. Would you like to?
Just to say that I look forward to working with the committee. I have no preconceptions and I feel that I am an independent voice. I've been given a copy of the charter and I reviewed it over the weekend, and I look forward to being a part of this.
Thank you very much. Councilor Walsh.
Yes, we would be remiss if we, in light of the mayor's comments about the qualifications of Mrs. Griffin to this position, we would be remiss if we didn't make note of her affiliation by family with the former mayor here of the city of Gardner, Charlie Manka.
Oh, yes.
Your uncle?
Oh, Charlie.
I did not know that.
But you're right, she's never been on the ballot. But the only comment I want to make, it's not really a question, because I agree with the mayor that the qualifications that Mrs. Griffin brings to the nomination are impeccable, and I think she'll do a fine job. But the only comment I would make is that, if you're not aware, I was originally was opposed to the creation of this committee because I feel that the charter, which is now 100 years old, we're 100 years old this year, has served us well from its inception, and it's like our it's like the Constitution of the city. It should be meddled with or amended very carefully and thoughtfully, and only when, in my opinion, the need is compelling and the need is urgent That's my view of it. I'm sure the committee will bring its own perspective on it, but I look forward to receiving the product of it, and I think that the mayor's appointment of Tina Griffin is a fine one.
Thank you, Councilor.
Thank you.
And Mrs. Griffin, I also say that I'm appreciative of your stepping forward to help the community. I think an independent voice is necessary in committees like this to ensure that all perspectives are seen and heard, and to ensure no mischief occurs. But I'll entertain a motion.
Move to recommend confirmation of the appointment.
Second. Motion made by Councilor Walsh, second by Councilor Tyros to recommend the mayor's appointment. Is there discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed, no. Motion passes. Thank you very much, Ms. Griffin.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Tina.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Move adjourned.
Any new business?
Oh, I have none. I'm sorry.
I have none as well.
I apologize.
Second motion to adjourn.
Oh.
Motion made by Councilor Walsh, second by Councilor Tyros to adjourn. All those in favor, aye?
Aye.
All those opposed, no. We stand adjourned. Thank you very much.